Badass of the Week is produced by High Five Content and $7 Productions. June 2nd, 1899. In the stark, moonlit expanse near Wilcox, Wyoming, the massive Union Pacific Overland Flyer, the crown jewel of the rails, screamed in protest as its wheels ground to a violent, shuddering halt. The tracks ahead are intentionally blocked by a strategically placed obstacle. The bewildered conductor watches from his window as the darkness yields silhouettes. Horses materializing like ghosts, carrying a dozen dangerous men, heavily armed, their faces obscured by bandanas and wide-brimmed hats. These are no ordinary highwaymen. Leading the group, a legendary figure dismounted, Butch Cassidy. He's one of the most wanted men in America, the charismatic leader of the infamous Wild Bunch, America's most prolific and successful band of robbers, responsible for hundreds of heists across Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. A living legend whose name strikes fear into every bank and rail line across the West. Cassidy approaches the conductor's window, his manner deceptively casual. "Evening," he drawls, his voice carrying an easy confidence. "Mind if we take a look inside that express car?" The conductor, despite the immediate danger, stands his ground. He knows what lays in that safe. Nearly $30,000 in payrolls, gold shipments, and bank deposits destined for points west. It's his duty to protect it. He refuses. Cassidy, still smiling but with a new edge in his eyes, simply nods towards one of his associates, a large Texan. The man reaches into his saddlebag and produces a hefty canvas backpack filled with sticks of dynamite. Cassidy turns back to the conductor, his geniality gone, replaced by a cold, sharp authority. "You may want to move, mister." In the next moments, a blast will shake the quiet Wyoming night, raining dollar bills upon the plain and etching the Wild Bunch deeper into the annals of outlaw history. Hello, and welcome back to Badass of the Week. My name is Ben Thompson, and this is the show where we tell the badass history of badasses. I am joined today by a special guest. He is the host of Heist Club. Please welcome Todd Weiser to the show. Todd, thank you so much for being here and helping us tell a story today.
Thank you for having me, Ben. It's an honor, a pleasure, and maybe I get to be called a badass by the end of the episode. Maybe not. It's okay. No pressure. No pressure.
I do like to introduce people. It's like, I'm talking to a real badass today, but we'll see.
Sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't, but it's a nice thing to say about someone, right?
It gets people worked up so that they're like ready to rock, They're like,
yeah. Okay, today, if I'm not a badass every day of the year, at least today I'm a badass and I'm going to talk like one. Yeah. You could fake it for 45 minutes, Okay, I can do that.
That's what I do. I do it once a week. I fake it.
Well done. You do a great job of it.
So, Todd, you are the host of Heist Club, which is a very fun podcast. I really enjoy it. Can you kind of tell people what that is and what you guys are doing?
Of course. And first of all, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. Heist Club is a weekly podcast where each episode we tell a story of a different audacious, ridiculous, famous heist from all time, bank heist, art heist, diamond heist, whatever it may be. We take you through that. It's my co-host Jesse and I, and we try to have a little fun with it. It's not a murder podcast, so it's serious, but not that serious. So we feel like we could tell a few jokes, make a bunch of movie references, because I think we both got into heist because of how cinematic they feel. You see Dog Day Afternoon or Ocean's 11 or Italian Job or Thomas Crown Affair, whatever it might be. And it feels like, oh, this is so entertaining and fun, but this could never be real. And then you read about real heists and it's unbelievable the things that people have pulled off.
Yes, that is very true. And, I do love a good heist movie. And some of the stories that you tell on the show are so weird that if you saw it in a movie, you'd be like, this is lame, right? This can't be real.
Oh, yeah. I love
way this would have worked.
I love that in general. Like when you see a movie sometimes that's based on truth and something happens, you're like, that's so ridiculous. They threw it in. I don't believe it at all. And then you read the true story. It's like, oh, that actually did happen? No way. You just never believe those things because, again, they happen in movies. They don't happen in real life.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess we're kind of doing that today with our episode. So we're kind of a good confluence of movies and heists and ridiculousness. And today we're going to talk about Butch Cassidy and presumably the Sundance Kid, which is also a famous movie with a lot of weird stuff that happens in that movie that was also based in reality.
Yes, that's right. I actually rewatched the movie last night just to, it's been nice to get myself up to snuff on the real Butch and the real Sundance. But I was like, okay, now that I know so much about the real, I do want to watch the movie again because it's also just one of my favorite all-time movies. It truly is a masterpiece watching it again. And,
absolutely.
Butch was definitely a badass, and Paul Newman, also one of the biggest badasses of all time.
Yeah, in real life.
In real life. In real life, that's right. Yes.
So yeah, we are going to be talking about Butch and Sundance. So it's the dying days of the Old West, and we're going to talk about a guy who is kind of legendary as a gunfighter, as a cowboy, as an outlaw, but according to legend, he never actually killed a single person while working in the United States. So that's kind of amazing because you do have these guys, these Jesse Jameses and Billy the Kids, who've killed a lot of people, right? But they, that's going to be kind of what sets Butch Cassidy apart from a lot of these other outlaws that we talk about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they hear badass can mean so many different things, right? But in the context of someone in the Old West, you're definitely thinking of a Billy the Kid who's killed 100 people, whatever it is, and has, is the quick shot. But it's in many ways even more badass to do all that without firing at all, right? That's just truly impressive.
Right, exactly. So he's not a killer. He's a professional bank robber and cattle rustler and heist guy. So they called him the gentleman bandit, and he kind of we're in the late days of the Old West, and he kind of takes what was working. He finds out what's working, and he's like, how can I basically turn this into a business, like a criminal empire, right? A pre-Al Capone kind of thing. And he plans these jobs himself. He's like, if we do it right, nobody's got to get hurt. You get away with the bag. And, it's kind of nice to not have all those murder raps on your sheet.
Yeah. Well, in heist movies and also real life, there often is that CEO type, or if you want to think of, who like brings everyone together. Danny Ocean in Ocean's 11, like we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this. And also in general, in those roles and real heist, you don't want to have to fire a gun, right? If you're firing a gun, it means something has gone wrong. So the ideal is it happens fast, no one causes trouble, and you're in and out of there pretty quickly. So, Butch was pretty good at like knowing who he needed, amassing the right crew, and then pulling it off many, many times.
Right, exactly. I mean, even Ocean's 11, as an example, nobody dies in that movie, right? They don't kill anybody in the course of the heist. That only is like a heat where, like, yeah, you messed up and now you've got to shoot your way out.
Exactly. Things went wrong. And that's kind of, it's a little different in Dog Day. But in Dog Day, it's like all of a sudden, oh, wait, the cops are here. Do I need to fire my gun? Am I firing? Things are going off. Things have gone wrong. But when it's veering towards violence, then you have not pulled this off. And you might not get away with it.
Right. And if you do, like, the heat's going to be way on more because now you're shooting cops and stuff, right? That's bad luck.
Good luck getting away now. Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Todd, let's take a really quick break. And when we come back, we're going to tell the story of Robert Leroy Parker, a.k.a. Butch Cassidy. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Badass of the Week. I am here with Todd Weiser of Heist Club. And Todd, we're going to talk about Robert Leroy Parker, which is the real name of Butch Cassidy. So Butch was born in 1866 in Beaver, Utah. He was the eldest of 13 kids to like a super Mormon Utah family. And I don't know if you've watched the show on this, but like the beginnings of the Utah, like the Mormon church in Utah, there's a lot of gunfighting, a lot of that kind of thing. But this was not what you would expect for a gunslinger.
No, not a history that I knew. And I think not a history most people know about Butch himself. Like this is the family he came from. And obviously not the way people would think of Mormon families today.
Right, exactly. So, and the story goes that he was a pretty good kid growing up. He worked hard. He was like charming. People liked him. He was a good big brother. He was a good leader. His family was pioneers, but they weren't poor. They were settlers who were trying to make a life for themselves in Utah with the Mormon settlement there. And his dad is a guy named Max Parker, and Max is a hardworking guy, but he kind of gets, as you see it as the beginning of most like cowboy movies go, Magnificent Seven, whatever, he gets involved in a land dispute with some rich folks want to take his land and try to screw him out of it.
Yep. It's how it always starts in the movies, and it's based on fact.
Yes, exactly, because this did happen. There's a politically connected neighbor of theirs, and he's able to kind of take advantage of Max Parker and steal a bunch of land from him. And that kind of sets up Robert Parker as being like, I'm against this, right? I hate these big banks, railroads, cattle barons, all this stuff. Like, somebody's got to look out for the little guy. And hey, maybe you can make some money in the process.
I mean, it is nice to know that really where it comes from. Because again, I just watched the movie, but you're always like, okay, are movies just making certain criminals look like good guys when they weren't? And I think it's probably a pretty quick question you'd have after watching Butch Cassidy and Sundance. Because when you have Paul Newman and Robert Redford playing them, immediately they're likable, right? But right. The fact that this started from a place of positivity and helping out the little guy, et cetera, it's, a little Robin Hoodie. Not like he really gives his money away to the people later in his life. No, it's for him. But still, it comes from a place of protection, and he sees someone else as the bad guy, and we need to get back at them. Which, at the time, again, capitalism, America, manifest destiny, et cetera. It's a complicated history.
It's a storyline that still works.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
I feel like let's get that billionaire is still like a workable storyline in the
still
movie.
Believable, and still the masses agree. They understand that sentiment immediately.
Yes, and so his dad kind of gets screwed over, and Robert Parker, he finds there's a neighbor that lives nearby. He's a ranch hand. His name is Mike Cassidy. And Mike Cassidy is an older guy. He's kind of like rough around the edges. He's a cattle rustler. He's been arrested for that. He's a gunfighter. And Robert is like, all right, this guy's cool. And like, this guy's not going to get screwed over by the banks. So I need to figure out what this guy knows. And he kind of gets close to this. He kind of gets close to Mike Cassidy. And this is where he learns to do some cowboy stuff. This is like his cowboy training montage. He learns how to shoot. He learns how to ride a horse. He learns how to alter cattle brands. So when you steal, like, cattle are branded, right? So when you steal cattle, you have to change the brand on the cow so that it doesn't, like, it's not obviously yours. I guess it's like changing the license plate. It's on a stolen car, basically.
Yeah, it seems a little bit more difficult because when you're branding a cattle, it's kind of a little harder to come off. But you have to, I guess, it almost feels like you have to be a visual artist to know, how do I turn that W into something completely different so no one would know it's the cow that was stolen from so-and-so farm.
I know your cows are branded with a W, but this one is a W with a circle around it.
There you go.
Can't be
so
the
new,
same.
so different. You never know.
And so when Robert eventually goes on the run and turns to a life of banditry and outlawry and Robin Hooding, he changes his last name to match Mike Cassidy. He starts going by Cassidy. And he does this for two reasons, and I love this story. One is because he wants to honor his mentor, and the other is because he doesn't want his mom to be ashamed of him if she finds out that he's an outlaw.
Not giving the Parkers a bad name. No, it's not the Parkers, it's the Cassidys.
And that works, because I didn't even really know his name was Robert Parker until I started researching this episode.
Yeah, and I'd heard it at some point. I took like a Wild West class when I was in college, actually. And we talked
nice.
a little bit. It was a little bit more Billy the Kid and a little more Wyatt Earp, but still, there was a little bit of this. And I remember learning that history, but you don't remember that. You remember Butch Cassidy. That's what you remember.
Right. So Ma Parker's name remained unsullied. And so then Todd, he starts off, before he starts robbing banks and, becomes the gentleman bandit, he has some little, like, I don't know, juvenile petty crimes that he commits, which are not really heists, but I feel like they're proto-heists.
It still has the elements of like his origin story, right? If he were a superhero or a villain or somewhere in between, there is that origin story. And I guess we'll call him Cassidy at this point. He's no longer Parker. He's turned into Cassidy. But no, actually, when he was a teenager, I guess he was still. This is the in between time. I would say
it's kind of the in between time.
The in between time. He's still sowing his wild oats. He's figuring himself out.
Let's call him Cassidy just because that's going to be way easier. I'm gonna keep forgetting Parker anyway, and we don't want to like make Ma Parker sad in her grave. So
exactly, we don't want to. We're not spitting on her grave or anything. And also, I think when listeners come to this, they'll be expecting a whole lot of Cassidy and not knowing who Parker is. It's like, oh, that's a different guy. But no, as a teenager, he rode into a town to buy a pair of jeans and the store was closed. So instead of riding home or breaking a window, he picked the lock, took the jeans, and left an IOU note on the counter promising to pay next time he was in town. This is like, I guess that's a crime. It definitely is. You shouldn't be just picking the lock. But, but most people who pick a lock or take something do not leave IOU notes. So he's already a gentleman, right? Already a gentleman that way.
It's a very polite way to I mean, it's not even robbing because he's planning on paying it back. He just
if you believe him, right? As long as you believe he's actually going to pay back. But the shopkeeper did press charges despite the IOU note. And Robert was acquitted, but it definitely reinforced his belief that, the system is rigid and stupid and all those things he thought already. Although it does seem like in the end it worked out too, right? He got the jeans, he didn't have to pay, he was acquitted. So, I can get away with this. Maybe this is the life for me.
Right. And, it is kind of dumb that this guy pressed charges against him. It's like, I signed my name to it. I said I'd come back. I said I'd pay for the thing. And then he did. And then
just force him to pay. If that shopkeeper did not press charges, Cassidy's life would have gone a different direction. Or maybe it would have anyway. But you just never know. You never know.
Yes, that's entirely possible. And so, he does begin to turn to a life of outlawry. And in his late teens, early 20s, he starts off as a cattle rustler, which is a very cowboy thing to do. He learned how to alter the brands. He starts stealing cows. And but it's interesting because he's not stealing cattle from the other ranchers in his neighborhood. He's going to the big corporate cattle herds, the kind of guys that ran his dad out of business, and he's stealing from them. And that's kind of I'm not going to say that's cool because it's still against the law, but it seems slightly more honorable than robbing like your next door neighbor who can't afford to lose that cow.
Completely. It shows that he really kept that moral center. Maybe that's too generous to call it that way, but to paint it that way. But it does show like it is something almost political for him, right?
Mm-hmm. This is a code of honor that he has, right? Yeah. He's kind of trying to toe that Robin Hood line, and he will for most of his career, which is kind of cool. So he drifts over to Wyoming and he's doing cattle rustling. He has a day job where he works at a butcher shop. This is kind of like apocryphal that like he gets the name Butch because he was a butcher, like a literal like butcher of cattle at a butcher shop. And that's always funny because when you think like Butch Cassidy, even when you look at a picture of this guy, like you think, like you said, he's a famous outlaw. You think fastest gun in the West. He's probably shot 20 guys, 8 of them for no reason at all because they were looking at him funny, right? And he's kind of the most nonviolent person in his gang. He's not going to kill anybody during his career rustling in the U.S. Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a lot of smarts in that, right? Like I think you kind of referenced or have heard the mafia reference before, right? It's like if you're at the top, you never pull off the crimes yourself. So you keep yourself at a distance. So I do think that's part of just who he was, because obviously he was hands-on. But at the same time, I think he did surround himself with people who maybe were more threatening or were more likely to shoot. I'm not saying he wanted them to shoot either. That's not the story we're telling. But like, his hands were clean very often. So right. It's a very smart personal decision to, create some longevity in this line of work that does not normally have longevity.
Yes, exactly. And he's gonna recruit some killers, and we're gonna talk about a couple of them soon enough. That's right. Yeah. And so he's in Wyoming, and he's doing his horse stealing and his cattle stealing, and he runs afoul of the law in a more serious way this time.
Yeah, he got caught stealing horses in Wyoming, and he was sentenced to 2 years in the state pen that time. So, he did see what punishment looked like. But I was going to say, unfortunately, I guess you could look at it either way. It's a more entertaining story that prison didn't reform him, but it didn't. It more educated him. He realized that petty theft, including cattle rustling, was high risk for low reward. So maybe that wasn't the way to go about it. If he was going to be a criminal, he needed to go for cash, banks, and trains, which you probably think there's more security for those things. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's not, though. So when he was released early, he was pardoned by the governor after 18 months. Very nice of the governor. He then promised the governor of Wyoming he would leave the state alone. And he did. He kept his promise, technically. He stopped robbing places in Wyoming. So you're welcome, Wyoming. I'm just going to nearby states. He used Wyoming as his safe zone hideout still, but he wasn't actually committing the crimes there. It was all neighboring states, Idaho, Utah, Nevada. So maybe the governor got what he wanted out of that.
Yeah,
Thank you for not messing with my citizens. Yes.
You go to Utah, you rob a bunch of banks, you get a bunch of cash, you bring it back to Wyoming, spend it on Wyoming businesses.
That's right. This is a positive for Wyoming.
We invested in the community.
Right. Look at this rich individual wants to spend his money here. We don't know how he got his money. Not our problem.
I don't know, but it's good for the economy.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's kind of interesting because I do think robbing banks and trains might have been easier. I mean, if you can pull it off, right? Because as we kind of mentioned at the beginning, he's able to pull this off without violence. And I guess with cattle rustling, you have to fence the cattle, right? You don't just keep the cows. You want to sell them, presumably, and that gets a little tricky. I don't know. It seems like maybe it would be easier to just have cash than cows.
I mean, cattle. Just immediately, it's like, how many are you taking? How much help do you have? It's like that's a. I'm not saying carrying a heavy weight of gold bars or something is easy, because there's weight to that as well. But it's nothing like 50, 100, whatever the numbers you're looking at here to make a real profit with cattle rustling.
Right, exactly. And so this is so Wyoming, after he gets out, this is where he starts up the Wild Bunch and kind of gets into the meat of his career.
Yeah, and these are some of those tough guys we were talking about. So, I mean, most outlaw gangs were just desperate guys who met in a saloon, but Butch really, Ocean's 11, like we said, built an all-star team. He recruited professionals who have specific skill sets. The group and then they became known as the Wild Bunch, like we said, which became a later movie, which had nothing to do with Butch, but very good movie on its own.
Different group.
But yeah, different group, very cool movie. People should watch that too. Not quite as good as Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, but they're just different movies. But the Wild Bunch was arguably the most talented roster of criminals in American history, which is quite a statement to make, but I think that they back that up, right?
Right. It's a big group. I mean, there's a bunch of them, and they all kind of had this one little hideout in Wyoming, and they operated out of there, and they were able to commit a lot of crimes and get away with it for a long time. Like, the careers of some of these guys, the careers of Jesse James and Billy the Kid, are not very long. No. These guys are able to do it for years.
Yeah, and not to keep going back to the movie, but the movie comes in, you're watching Butch and Sundance in the movie at a point where they're later in their careers and they're onto them and it becomes the chase. This is, they're known, they're known throughout this time, but they're able to get away with it for a long time and not be found. And I don't know. Obviously, it's a changing West. The landscape is changing economically and all that, and things are about to change, like I said, at the tail end. But to go through the Wild Bunch, we can mention some of them, some of the members, some of this all-star crew, if you would. Cue the music, like it's it's starting lineup of a basketball team coming out of the crowd, coming out off the bench and on the center court. But LZ
6-foot gunslinger from
that's right, 6-foot gunslinger
Sundance, Wyoming,
from Utah. You know him, Yeah. LZ Lay is one. That's Butch's best friend and co-leader. So he didn't do it alone. But LZ was educated, handsome. I feel like they were all handsome. Educated, handsome, and the only guy as smart as Butch. That's a good partner. I mean, I feel like, also you think about people who are CEOs, co-CEOs, heads of things. Normally, if you're running something, you want it to be just you and maybe your partner or something very different. But to find someone else who's just as smart as you, it's a sign of you're running a good business.
Right. He was kind of the EVP. And these guys were all they were traveling around. They were all working on different jobs. So when you think of the James gang, they all rode together and robbed together and stuff. This hole in the wall gang, they break off. He's your CEO is a great example because he's in charge of a bunch of small groups that are going off and doing things. This is kind of how they were able to be so successful, because they'll break off into groups of 5 or 6 and go do a job and then come back. As long as they all meet up back here, you need extra administration.
Yeah, is that subsidiaries of the Wild Bunch? Is that they broke off into or they were franchising maybe? Whatever the economic model is, it worked for them for a long time.
Yes.
In addition to LZ, there's also Harry Longbaugh. That is Sundance Kid. That's his real name. Again, just like if you didn't know Parker, maybe you didn't remember Longbaugh, but Longbaugh was definitely the muscle. Butch was the planner who hated violence. Sundance was the one you called if things went loud, and they often went loud. He was fast, accurate, terrifyingly calm, which is perfectly portrayed by Redford. Born in Pennsylvania, left for the Old West at age 15, so romanticized. I'm sure he wanted the freedom of the West. And 1887, at age 20, got caught stealing a horse in Sundance, Wyoming, just a single horse. That doesn't seem like a big deal in the grand scheme of all these things, but a horse. And he was sentenced to 18 months in jail. And when he got out, similarly, did not go straight, decided to wear his conviction like a badge of honor, adopted the name Sundance Kid. That's where he stole the horse from, to let everyone know where he had been. Like that's where he did his time. He was
the kid that got arrested in Sundance for stealing that horse. You might have heard of me. Yeah. Stole that one horse that one time.
So at that time, they were not thinking film festival. It was a very different, the name meant something very different back then.
Yes.
And during robberies, Butch would be the face, talking to the tellers, cracking the safe, and Sundance would be the crowd control. He's got the gun. He's not afraid to use it. Stand guard, often with a lever-action Winchester, watching the street. That's a lever-action Winchester in the hands of Sundance Kid. That is badass. That is the definition of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Like it's they call it like overwhelming force. So like police will talk about this. They say like, when they go to arrest a guy who is maybe suspected of being a drug dealer or a hacker or whatever, they'll go in with 20 guys pointing guns at him, wake him up in his sleep with 20 guys pointing guns at him. And they're like, isn't that overkill? And the police will be like, no, you need to present overwhelming force so that when that guy sees all of you pointing guns at him, he doesn't even consider the option of running or fighting. He's just, I'm done, right? And so I feel like Sundance kind of represents that for this gang. He is like overwhelming force when he's standing there with that rifle and the 6-shooter. You're just some dude who showed up at the bank to like withdraw $10. You're like, yeah, I'm out, man. I have no intention to try to take that weapon away from you. I'll just do what you say.
Well, what a compliment to Sundance, though, that he could be a man of one and still be that overwhelming force. Yes. All it takes is one that skilled, and it still has the same effect as 20 FBI guys knocking on your front door or whatever it is.
Although I wonder if like the reputation for not killing anybody during heists actually helped people be more compliant. Kind of the Genghis Khan thing where it's like, well, they don't kill anybody as long as you do what they say. So let's just do what they say and we'll be fine.
I'll live anyway. It's like, I don't own this train. I don't own these gold bars. I'm just an employee here. Why would I risk my life when I know their plan's not to shoot? They want to get in, out as fast as they can, get away with it, and that's that. It's a good point. Yeah. It's a good point. Exactly. And then I'll mention 2 other members of the Wild Bunch, News Carver, great nickname, News, and Ben Kilpatrick, who are also muscle and logistics guys. So maybe not as smart as Butch, but maybe not as muscular, if I would put it that way, as Sundance, but they still had their roles.
Yeah, you need to show up. You need to have some guys there with you to back you up. Ben Kilpatrick was known as the Tall Texan. So
it's a good nickname too.
Yeah. And so
there's also a lot of tall guys in Texas. So if you're the tall Texan, then you must be really tall.
Probably pretty tall.
Yes.
So he, like we said, he sets up in a place called the Hole in the Wall in Wyoming, which is, you think of like a small restaurant or like a damp cave, but it's actually a valley that was kind of this bottlenecked valley. It's inside of this like red rock part of Wyoming. And if you didn't know the secret path through, you couldn't get in. And even if you did, they were going to see you coming from a mile away because there's one little passage. And if the posse or the police or whatever are coming, you'll be way gone before they actually arrive. So that's a cool hideout. And it's in Wyoming, but he's not doing crimes in Wyoming, so that kind of helps him that he's not getting chased by the Wyoming PD.
Exactly. It's just a hideout. Nothing. We're just counting our money here. We're not doing anything else with it.
Yeah, which we acquired by totally legal means.
Totally legal. Don't ask any questions.
But this was like, so you think the Hole in the Wall would be this like kind of tiny little thing, but it's a whole valley in the mountains here. It's like an outlaw community. We mentioned that like the Hole in the Wall gang is not like 6 guys. It's a bunch of guys. And there's cabins set up. They have corrals. They have pasture for the stolen horses and cattle and stuff. They have a big stockpile of food and whiskey and beer. And even like rival gangs could come and hang out, plan jobs, play cards. And this was just kind of like I don't know. I think of like Pirate Tortuga, but it's that for bandits, outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true headquarters. Again, I think in the movies, it's often just, they hang out at that saloon, right? And they go up and down the stairs and they drink too much and they play cards and then someone gets shot. This is quite a community. It's like a commune, really.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where he does some of his most famous jobs.
That's right. Which brings us to Telluride, which is a job of theirs in June of 1889. This is Butch's rookie debut, but he plays it like a veteran, not surprisingly. He targets the San Miguel Valley Bank in Colorado, and does not just kick the door and screaming. He cases the joint for days, which I know from other heists that you want to do it well, you got to do that. Maps the escape routes, everything involved. Even plants, this is so smart, even plants fresh horses at relay points along his getaway path so he can outrun the posse. Now that is just like such future thinking, forward thinking that, again, I think in general, you just think, okay, I hope the horse can make it, right? We got to run away for days, but literally thinking about that already. Cause I mean, horses have feelings, or however you want to put it. We don't want horses to get shot in the line of work or anything too, but they get tired and sometimes you need to dump a horse and then run to another one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that seems like a gangster thing you'd see in a movie too, like a Baby Driver kind of thing. Where I picture them like changing clothes when they change the horse. No, that he was riding a black horse and he had like a white hat on. Yeah, it's a totally different guy.
runs behind a big rock and all of a sudden comes out with a different outfit on. Yeah, I could see that. He would. I mean, smart enough to do that. The
horses are all getting tired. They're like, dang it, he's getting away.
Yeah. And on the day of the heist, he walks in, taps the teller on the shoulder, and relieves the bank of $21,000. So by the time the sheriff even gets his boots on, Butch is 3 canyons away, riding a fresh horse, probably counting stacks of cash in the breeze. No shots fired, clean getaway. It's not even a robbery. It's really a magic trick. It's so true. It's like, that's how it should be done, for so many reasons. Yes.
And I think this is the one. I think there's a story here where the sheriff can't even get a horse. Like, he has to ride a bike. He gets on a bicycle and starts chasing on a bicycle. And everybody in town's like laughing at him because it's silly looking.
That's amazing.
Catch on your bike. Yeah. I'm going to catch a horse on your bicycle. I don't think so. So
good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, exactly. But like you said, it's steals $21,000. I don't know what the conversion to US dollars is. It's probably like $8 million or something.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, $21,000. Dollar was worth a lot more in 1896 than it is today, 1889 than it is today. But so big heist, no shots fired, walks in there's like, give me the money. They say, okay, I don't want any trouble. And this is kind of his style. He is going to rob, Scott's going to start robbing banks. He hits the Montpelier Bank in Idaho. Same thing ever. Walks in, like, goes in, asks them for the money. I'd like to make a withdrawal. Me and Smith and Wesson here are looking to make a withdrawal from the bank. Gets $7,000. They put all the employees in the corner. They get $7,000. Oh, and this is the one. Sorry, I had my heists mixed up.
There were so many heists. It's easy to get them confused. But yeah, this is the bicycle one. Okay,
this is the bicycle one. This is where the sheriff is trying to chase him on a bike, and Butch Cassidy is like the most famous, greatest horseman in the West, and he's galloping away with gold bars in his bag. And
I wonder if this was the inspiration. Again, sorry if I'm talking about the movie too much, but fresh of mind, and also people haven't watched it recently, it's going to be reminded. But one of the best scenes in the movie is the scene where Butch is riding the bicycle around, and Sundance's girlfriend, Catherine Ross, Etta is her real name, jumps on, and they start doing all these like basically tricks. And it's like, it's the Burt Bacharach music playing, and it's just a lovely, beautiful, joyful scene. It is played for fun. When there's a horse, when there's a chase, they're on horses, because you cannot imagine in the Old West someone on a horse and their person on the bike trying to chase it. It's immediately ridiculous. So the sheriff.
This is not a Tour de France road bike. This is this is a 1889. We just invented the bicycle kind of bike, and the sheriff's riding it. Not only are the people in town embarrassed, but like the newspapers get word of it, and they start putting like funny stories about how silly it is that this guy's trying to ride a bike after him. I mean, he's the sheriff is trying to catch him with whatever. It's better than running after them, I guess. But yeah, it's not a good look for the.
I'm guessing he wasn't reelected sheriff. There was an election 2 years later, and his opponent just showed a bunch of pictures of the current sheriff on a bicycle looking ridiculous, and that's all it took to get him out of office.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody did a political cartoon of it for their campaign, and that was the end of that guy.
Yep.
But Butch starts to become famous. Like, he becomes a big name in the U.S. Like, even while during his career, people have heard of Butch Cassidy now, but during the time, he was like a celebrity because he was kind of this Robin Hood guy. He wasn't the only one that disliked the big banks and the big, train companies and things like that, the big cattle companies. And he's out there robbing banks and not shooting anybody. So he's not losing public opinion by being like, oh, he's leaving bodies everywhere he goes. People aren't afraid of him. They like him and they think he's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I know at the time, paperback novels and stuff about these robbers from the West were so popular, and they really built up the myth of these people even more. But what's so amazing about Butch is the reality is just as big as the myth. Like these are the real stories. We don't have to make anything up right now, and it's still a larger than life figure. Right.
And so then in 1897, Todd, he goes after the coal company.
Yeah. The target is the payroll for the Pleasant Valley Coal Company in Utah. So this was basically pure psychological warfare. Butch and Elsie camped downtown for days beforehand. They were friendly. They bought drinks, let people see their faces. Why would you think they're going to rob anything when they're acting so gentlemanly again? And then when the train arrives with the gold, the paymaster unloaded it onto a cart. Butch just walked up, put a gun gently into the man's ribs, and said the famous line, "Drop them sacks." What a line.
Drop them sacks.
He had to have planned that, right? That's a badass line. Yeah.
He was working on it with Elsie while they're at the saloon. Like, I'm going to say drop them sacks. Does that sound good? Yeah. No,
they had days to workshop what the line should be. One day they're going to tell this story and what do we want them to say. But again, it's such a subtle move. Again, this is the opposite of abundance of force. This is just hey, I'm nobody. I'm just here. Oh, but I have a gun. Give it to me, and I'm out of here. Easy. Right.
And you think about this is not the beginning of Pulp Fiction. Jumping up on the tables, waving a gun around the air, screaming at everybody. He's just I got a gun. Give me your money. Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
Stick up. Drop
and they
sacks.
Also, they cut the telegraph wires so no one could call for help and rode off. Again, just smart moves. Clearly smart people. These are not drunks, again, in the middle of a bender, and they walk by a bank and they say, let's do it. Or, again, a card game goes wrong and all of a sudden they're running out of town. They are pre-planning everything. It is highly impressive. Even if they're doing, even for a criminal act, is highly impressive. And they stole $8,800 then, which is about $300,000 today, in broad daylight without firing a shot. Again, no shots fired. Amazing.
Just pick up sack of gold. They take it off the train, grab the gold, stick it on the horse, ride off.
That's right. Drop them sacks.
Drop them sacks. Okay, so now by 1898, these are the three biggest of his heists, but there's more he's doing in between. He's still rustling cattle. He's still rustling horses. He's robbing banks. He's robbing payrolls. He is like a celebrity, a national celebrity. Like you said, he's in all of these pulp dime novel kind of things.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done his biggest heist yet. And so when we come back, we're going to talk about his most famous one. And this is also one from the movie. But we're going to talk about the big train robbery. We have to do one more ad break. And then when we come back, we'll tell that story. All right, welcome back to Badass of the Week. I am here with Todd Weiser from Heist Club. And Todd, I think it's time for a heist.
Yeah, it's time for a big one too. I think, these are the most famous ones they did. And, we did an episode on Heist Club about the Reno gang in Indiana, which was the first gang to commit a train robbery, which was in 1866, I believe. So, those are the first, but when you think train robbery, who do you think of? Think of the James Gang, but you definitely think of Butch and Sundance. So This is the Wilcox train robbery. It's 1899. As you said, Butch the Wild Bunch is pretty famous this time, but they need a big score. They want a big score. They target the Union Pacific Overland Flyer. And this time they are not being subtle. This is not just a one-man job or a two-man job. They flag down the train in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. The express car clerk refuses to open the door. Despite what we said earlier, right? We thought, okay, they're known not for killing people. Maybe you just comply and let them get away with it. No, this clerk was not listening. He thinks he's tough. They did stop
the train for him. They stopped the train, but they're not going to open it. They must have blocked the track or something.
We're just gonna. They have dynamite. It just kind of seems like what else is going to happen if you don't open the door? Why die for someone else's money?
You're looking throughout the window, and they're just, all right, get the dynamite, just pulling out. I'm just picturing like cowboy style, like the big like bundles of like the red sticks, right?
Yeah, it's like Wile E. Coyote or something,
right?
It's like, over the top cartoon. But Butch says, "Okay, have it your way." And like we said, they apply the dynamite, a lot of dynamite, and they blew the door off the hinges. And the clerk still would not open the safe. So Butch, probably sighing and rubbing his temples, packs the safe with even more dynamite. And now they used a little bit too much, to put it mildly. When they blew the safe, it didn't just crack it open, they obliterated the entire express card. This is in the movie. It's it's a crazy scene. I love
That's
it.
one. This is so the thing from the movie that you think is silly, but like this happened this is a real story.
Oh yeah, and everything goes everywhere. Remember the cash is just raining down in the movie, and this is what happened in real life. Rain cash, gold, debris all over the Wyoming prairie. They're trying to pick it up. Spend the next 10 minutes picking up $30,000 in bills before riding off into history. So, excuse me, maybe not the most poetic version of their heist, maybe not the squeakiest of robberies, but they still got the money in the end. Just and if only the clerk had listened, right?
Yeah, it was the biggest heist they had, right? 30 grand was the most they've gotten out of anything. But yeah, like stop the train, talk to the guy, won't open the door, they blow the door up. Guy won't open the safe, they blow the safe up. But they must have just been frustrated, just like, whatever, man, we're gonna blow this thing, we're getting this money.
Well, and I feel like often on these teams, there is the explosives guy or whatever it is, right? And the reason someone might be the explosives guy is because they like to see things go boom. And when you do that, you get a little too excited, and things really went boom on this one. It does show, Butch was quite adaptable, though, right? Obviously, he was known for his charm. If charm worked, he used charm. In this case, dynamite was needed, and he packed a whole bunch of that, too.
Right. You got to be prepared.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to run into.
Yeah, he's a good Boy Scout. Whatever. You got to be prepared for any situation.
So, okay. Now, this is where, like you said, the movie kind of picks up towards the end here where we get this train heist and then we kind of get the end of it. And what ends up happening is he is robbing the rich, and the problem with the rich is they have money to hire really, really powerful guys to come hunt you down. They have the resources to hunt you down. So this robbery was against the Union Pacific Railroad, and the head of the Union Pacific Railroad is a guy named E.H. Harriman, and he's tired of getting his trains blown up.
Understandably.
Like, yeah. I mean, it's
although in this
payroll,
case, he can maybe blame the clerk a little in this case, because if the clerk, even the train would not have been blown up if they just let it get it, if you just let him take the money. But I'm sure Harriman doesn't want the money taken either. So
no, exactly. And so he contacts the Pinkertons, who, they're the bad guys in all the Old West movies. The Pinkertons were like a national detective agency, a private detective agency whose job was to like hunt down outlaws. Yep. And Harriman goes to them and is like, you have an unlimited budget to find these guys and deal with them. So the Pinkertons, before this, it was local sheriffs and local police and not Wyoming police because they're operating outside of Wyoming. Although this heist, I think, took place in Wyoming. The Pinkertons, they have like a private army, and they don't worry about jurisdiction. They're basically like bounty hunters, and only they're like more well-armed than like the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And so these guys send in their best guy. His name is Charlie Siringo, and he's one of these guys who he was a cowboy and he knows cowboy stuff, and he knows how to hunt these guys. He knows hideouts. He knows how to work the trails. He knows how to live off the land. He can do stuff that regular local cops don't usually do. Kind of more like a U.S. Marshal kind of guy. And he starts to go on the case, and he does an interesting thing where he doesn't just try to track these guys. He tries to infiltrate their network. He goes undercover as an outlaw, and he's good enough that he can fake it, and just keeps trying to be like, hey, I'm trying to get in with the hole in the wall gang. Where do I find these guys? Which is clever.
Yeah, it's smart. He's trying, Butch is smart, so he's trying to outsmart him, which seems hard to do. But that approach is certainly it takes more time, but maybe that's the way to capture him. Maybe that's the way you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so he starts making contact, starts trying to figure out. He chases him across multiple states over the course of months, and he's getting closer to them. He's starting to track them down, and they know the Pinkertons are looking for them now, and they know the heat's on. But they're rich and they're invincible, right? They haven't been caught. Nobody's been arrested. Everything's going great. They do this one very silly thing. And this is this is something you wouldn't really think about, but they go to Fort Worth, Texas to celebrate. They buy all this fancy clothes with all the money they've gotten, like this, what was it? $8,000 is $300,000 today. I don't know what the 30 grand would have been, way more than that, right?
Seriously. They got a lot of money to blow. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like in their like late 20s, 30s, like they're just doing dumb things with their money. Right.
Even though late 20s and 30s then was older than it is today because people didn't live as long. But still, it was, right. They were still young enough.
Even that, these guys did not have long life expectancies either. They were outlaws,
that too, right? live every day like your last could be tomorrow, because for a lot of them it is.
Exactly. So they go to Fort Worth, Texas. They buy like really fancy suits and bowler hats, and they go to like a professional photographer to get their picture taken. So it's Butch Sundance, Ben Kilpatrick, the tall Texan, News Carver, and Kid Curry. They all go, like the brains of the gang, the central group of the gang goes to this photographer and they get their picture taken by a professional photographer, which was a thing. This is one of those ones where like you stand there, it's all black and white. You have to stand there for like 2 minutes waiting for the pinhole camera to like take the photo.
Yep.
But, a weird thing with this is that like before this, people didn't really know what Butch Cassidy looked like because there wasn't photographs of him. There were just police sketches or whatever, wanted posters. Now, the photographer loves the picture. He's like, I got a picture of Butch Cassidy, blah, blah, blah. Puts it up on his window as like advertising for his studio. Like, hey, look, Butch Cassidy got his picture taken here. And everybody's like, that's what he looks like.
Now we know. You would think Butch would be smarter than that, right? I don't know what the blind spot was for him and that he didn't think about that. Or maybe it was just because he thought it was just for them and no one else will ever see this. And I'm allowed to take pictures of myself, we didn't want anyone else to get access to. Just didn't think 3 steps ahead that time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was in the middle of like a big celebration. Might have been intoxicated at the time. I don't know.
There's a chance. Yeah. Who are we to cast aspersions? But maybe. Yeah.
Well, you could one interesting thing is like, you can look this picture up now because it's the internet and everything's available these days. And like, they don't look like gangsters. They look like rich guys from the, from the late 1890s.
Yeah. High fashion of the time. Yes.
Right. Exactly. And it's pretty cool. So the Pinkertons get a hold of that photo and they're able to reproduce it and they start putting it on every wanted poster in like the tri-state area, basically. And, they make sure every cop in every state these guys operate in has this photo sitting on their, like pinned up on their board, and they start to find these guys. So News Carver gets into a gunfight. He's shot in Texas and killed. The authorities find, and this is the undercover Pinkertons, Siringo, he finds the hole in the wall. And they block off the entrance there. They arrest who they can find there. A lot of them have already gone, but they block it off and deny Butch access to it. They set up kind of a base there to hunt him.
Doors are like literally closing on them, right? You got Harriman putting every dollar possible to get the Pinkertons to chase him, plus the picture. I mean, it's just their options are dwindling.
Yes. Slay and Kilpatrick are arrested. Butch is on the run and he tells his lawyer, he says, quote, "I've been hunted for so long, I don't know what it is to sleep." So that's it. It's getting bad. So what does he do? Well, from the movie, Todd.
Well, in the movie, they talk Bolivia, but I love it's actually, Argentina is what he was thinking of the whole time.
Right. Yeah. So he goes down to Argentina, goes to South America. Let's get out of here. Right. I'm getting hunted. Let's get out of here. I'm rich. Right. I'll just go. So he hears, Argentina has this gaucho culture of cattlemen, basically cowboys, right? But Southern Hemisphere cowboys. And it's kind of 30 years. What he's heard is it's kind of 30 years behind the Old West. So it's like the good old days of the Old West. You can go down there and buy a ranch, live like a king, do cowboy stuff. So that's where they go. So Butch and Sundance's wife at a place who you referenced earlier, they head on down there. Etta kind of shows up around 1900 with Sundance. There's all these stories. Maybe she was a school teacher. Maybe she was a prostitute, but she's a gunslinger. She's part of the team. She rides with them, camps with them, was a good shot with a rifle. And they head down to Argentina. But before they go to Argentina, and I love this, they go to New York City and they just party for like a week. in New York City before they catch a boat down to Buenos Aires. So they go around, they're going to like, just touring 1900 New York City, having a party.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the movie too is that, because it's all done it's a montage of like photographs that look of the time. So you're in Central Park, you see this wide photo, and slowly zooms them to them in the corner having a laugh and smiling towards the camera. It's just a really smartly and unique way to do it and bring it to life. And again, there's all these things in the movie you're like, oh, that's a fun idea, but they probably didn't do that in real life. And yes, they did. Yes, they did. They really lived it up in New York City before heading to South America. They kissed America goodbye in the most fun way possible.
Yes. They catch a British ship. They get off of Buenos Aires. They buy a ranch in the mountains or on the plains of Argentina. They build a log cabin. They buy cattle. They take on fake names. And for the next 4 years, they just kind of settle down and be cattle ranchers. They have like the people of the town like them. They host dances and barbecues. The local governor has dinner at their house. And the greatest outlaws in history, the most famous outlaws in America, become Argentinian sheep farmers, basically.
Which is not how the movie plays it. The movie plays it like, they can't go straight. There's not even like a moment of them going straight, because it's, they're condensing time, and also it's more fun to paint them that way, I guess. It's a little bit less exciting to see them just, farming sheep instead of trying to rob Bolivian banks and learn Spanish when they don't know how to speak Spanish. Yeah. So that is a liberty the movie took.
Right. But that's okay. It wouldn't be a very exciting montage of just them like having a party, eating barbecue, raising sheep.
hanging out with the gauchos. That's right.
Yep. But here's the thing is like the Pinkertons never give up. The Pinkertons always get their man. And there's an agent named Frank DeMaio who travels to Buenos Aires and tries to get Butch extradited. They find him in Buenos Aires. They try to extradite him, but the Argentinians won't do it. So he brings that poster with that photograph and starts distributing it to the banks and police stations in Argentina. And they start to kind of hassle Butch and Sundance. They can't like operate in town. They can't buy stuff. So they end up having to move. This is when they go to Bolivia. By 1908, they are in Bolivia, and they are doing that thing from the movie. They're robbing banks.
Yeah.
And they don't speak Spanish. So in real life, they had to use a phrase book to find manos arriba for like, put your hands up.
Yeah, which you see in the movie too. So basically the movie just skipped all the Argentina years is what it did. They went straight to Bolivia and just cut short time, which you could say is the way, movies don't always mirror life, but at the same time, they're not making a 3-hour movie, right? So they're just cutting things up a little quicker. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to keep it moving, right? You've got to feel like it's constantly closing in. But in the real life guy, like he it's kind of nice to think that he had like a little bit of a happy time, right? He had 4 good years in Argentina before things got
It is nice to think about that. I like knowing that, and that's okay. To me, it's okay the movie didn't show that, but I like to know that they really did try. They really did try.
Yeah. And then they got screwed again by the man, right? The railroad barons could still screw them all the way down in the southern hemisphere, all the way to Patagonia. They could get messed up by the big corporations. So they end up in Bolivia. They're older now. They don't know the terrain. They don't speak the language. They're robbing banks and stuff. They target another payroll. This was a mule train for a mining company in Bolivia. They think they're going to get a big heist. They kind of do the same thing. They rob the bank without killing anybody. They get about 90 grand in today's money, which is a lot of money, but it's not enough for them to quit. They're going to have to keep going. They leave they complete the robbery. They end up in San Vicente, Bolivia. And it turns out that remember altering the brand on the cattle? They didn't alter the brand on these mules that they stole.
They forgot to put the circle around the W to make it completely new. That was their fault.
That's it. They messed up. They made a mistake. They got lazy or sloppy, and somebody saw the mules in town with the mining company's logo on them. And they don't call the police. They call the Bolivian military. And the army shows up. And this is where we get the movie ending. San Vicente, 1908. They're surrounded by the Bolivian army. Blaze of glory. The official story is that Sundance is shot and killed, and then by the police. And then Butch kills himself to avoid capture. That's the official story. Butch didn't kill anybody in the U.S., but he he probably killed somebody in Bolivia as part of this fighting. Would be the first people he killed. But, the movie ends with the freeze frame.
People love thinking that they didn't die. It's why we don't see it, I mean, it's fun to think that. I don't think that was the intention of the filmmaker, but I think you're going to get into the theory that, maybe Elvis is still alive.
Yes, exactly. And there are theories about this. So, the Bolivian military report on the shooting was not super specific. They were just like, we shot and killed 2 gringos, basically. And, and Butch would have changed the brand, but he didn't this time. I don't know. So there's a story that he lived and, that the bodies in Bolivia were never properly identified. And in the 1930s, there was a guy living in Spokane, Washington, named William T. Phillips. And he wrote a book called The Bandit Invincible. And it tells the story of Butch Cassidy, but it has details that only Butch would have known. Stuff like the layout of the hole in the wall, and details of some of his robberies that weren't released by the police. He goes to the old Wyoming location of the hole in the wall, and he's looking around. He finds all these buried stashes of guns and gold in the hole in the wall, and then. It's 1930, so there's still guys alive who knew Butch Cassidy, and people who lived there who saw Phillips were like, that's Butch, that's him. Like, I'm sure of it. So
it's romantic, but I like to believe it. It's always fun to think about that. I mean, it's always fun to imagine that they somehow got away, and what a great story that'd be. So, let the myth live on, true or not. It's a cool little story.
Yeah. Whether or not it's true, like, it doesn't. See, Butch Cassidy is badass, even if he does go down in a blaze of glory in Bolivia, which is probably what happened. But I like the William T. Phillips story as well. But yeah, so he is a famous outlaw who hated violence. He outsmarted the man. He outsmarted the tycoons, and he proved that you don't have to be the meanest guy in the room to be the most dangerous. You just have to be the smartest, and that's kind of badass.
And that's how you get away with it. On Heist Club, we see people steal things all the time, and then they get caught a day later. They get caught 2 weeks later, whatever it is. Like they see the opportunity to steal something, but they don't really think about the getaway at all. And I mean, for Cassidy to do it for this long and steal that much and that many times really proves, a true icon in the space.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And that's Butch Cassidy. Todd, thank you so much for coming on and helping me tell this story. It was good to get a heist expert's point of view on these heists.
Thank you again for having me. It's such a fun subject. Obviously, I could talk about any heist, but any heist. I almost said Annie Hall. Any heist. I don't know. Too many movies on the brain. Yeah, different story. No heist in that I can remember. But especially talk about Butch and Sundance. And Butch is just quite a life, quite a guy. I love these stories. And there's even more we could have told. I mean, we highlighted some of the biggest and the most amazing, but there's countless. There's just countless.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. You got so many. There's, like you said, there's so many outlaws from this time period that do one bank robbery, become famous for it, but that's it, right? They're caught or killed immediately. Yeah. And he's able to make this happen for years, like a really long career for an outlaw. You think of these outlaws and pirates, even the big names, like they operate for months, not years, before they're taken out. Okay, Todd, where can people find your stuff online?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so Heist Club, the podcast, you can find on all your podcast apps, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. And then we're also at Heist Club Pod on Instagram, TikTok, also Letterboxd, because we make a lot of movie references. So It's a fun place to put all those references. So please, listen, like, subscribe, download, all those things you do for Ben, do them for me too, please.
Oh, yes. I forgot to mention you guys should do that for me too. So
there you go. Do that for Ben first, me second. I'll let it's Ben's the host today, so I'll let him own it first.
Okay. All right. Well, Todd, thanks so much for being on the show. I would love to have you come back again in the future, tell some more stories about badass heists from history.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah, and thanks to you guys out there for listening. We do this every week. If you enjoyed this, please come back next Tuesday, and we will tell you another story of something crazy that happened in history. Until then, thanks so much, and stay badass. Badass of the Week is produced by High Five Content and $7 Productions. Executive producers are Dwayne Johnson, Danny Garcia, Andrew Jacobs, Hiram Garcia, Brian Gewirtz, Frankie Chaparino, and of course, me, Ben Thompson. Writing is by me and my semi-regular but always awesome co-host, Dr. Patricia Larish. Story editing by Ian Jacobs. Our mixing, music, and sound design is done by the incomparable Jude Brewer. Production support by Jean McGale-Waite. Badass of the Week is based on my website, badassoftheweek.com, where you can read all sorts of stories about other badasses. If you want to reach out with questions or ideas, you can email us at badasspodcast@badassoftheweek.com. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, follow, listen, tell your friends, and tell your enemies. And please leave us a review. If you want to support Badass of the Week, please check out our Patreon page. We'll be back next week with another one.